Welcome to Across the Goal Line, a sports podcast brought to you by diehard fans. And today, Luke Goddard and I, we got some football for you.
A lot of it.
Continuing some discussion from the NFL this past week. Also getting to some of the bowl games that were taking place from the college game here in the last week, I guess. So, so I think that's where we're going to start. We're going to start with some bowl games.
Start with bowl games. Start with the FCS first. They had the playoffs. 2 games last week. James Madison went to North Dakota State, went into the Fargo Dome and beat the 5-time reigning champion, North Dakota State Bison. And then Youngstown State went to frigid state of Washington and beat Eastern Washington last weekend on a last-second play on a one-handed catch that was secured by the defender's back, which was pretty phenomenal. So now we have a championship game on January 7th in Frisco, Texas, a game that I predicted last week. I said both James Madison and Youngstown State would win to face each other in that game. And then I also said at the beginning of the FCS playoffs that both these teams were dark horses to, possibly dethrone North Dakota State, and that has happened so far. Do you want to pick that game now, Corey, or do you want to wait until it would be probably January 6th, whenever that time comes around?
Doesn't matter to me.
Doesn't matter?
Doesn't matter to me.
We'll just pick it now so we can get it out of the way so we don't have to worry about it later on. I'm going to take Youngstown State to get back on track, winning national championships at the FCS level. They won back-to-back championships whenever Jim Tressel was the head coach before he left to go to Ohio State. Saw what he did there in Columbus. So I think Bo Pelini, he gets Youngstown State and his hometown team back on track to beat James Madison. James Madison, they also suspended 7 players indefinitely for the game. So I don't know if that's going to play a huge factor or not.
I don't know, but I am going to take the Penguins of Youngstown State to win the FCS championship.
All right. And then, as you said, we'll move on to the bowl games that took place last weekend. We also have one tonight that we picked last week. It's BYU Wyoming. It's also a question of the day today, so go here on our Facebook page, Instagram, and Twitter. Vote on it. BYU or Wyoming and the points settable. I picked BYU. Did you pick BYU too last week? All right, yeah, because we picked them pretty much all year long. So I went 6-2. He also went 6-2 last week. And then we're counting those games onto our records for the year already. So I'm 120 and 82, and you're 140 and 62 on the year. We had a great game between Grambling State and North Carolina Central. Grambling State won by 10-9 because of a celebration on one of NC Central's players. Backed the extra point up, ended up getting blocked. Grambling State won by 1. New Mexico played at home against University of Texas San Antonio as they played in their first bowl game. They won by 3. San Diego State and Donnell Pumphrey broke Ron Dane's rushing record, even though Ron Dane will still say to this day he still owns the record because when he played, Corey, they didn't count the bowl game rushing yards onto that record. Now they are, so that's why Pumphrey was able to pass him. But San Diego State defeated Houston and new head coach Major Applewhite 34-10. App State won their second straight Camellia Bowl over Toledo 31-28. The score was almost similar to last year's game. App State beat Ohio 31-29. Arkansas State defeated Central Florida 31-13. Arkansas State was pretty most of the game. Central Florida really couldn't get anything going. Southern Miss defeated Louisiana Lafayette in the nightcap on Saturday night 28-21. Tulsa blew out Central Michigan in the Miami Beach Bowl 55-10, and then Western Kentucky also did the same thing to Memphis last night. They won by 20, 51-31. And now we got some games from tomorrow up until next Wednesday night. So we'll start with tomorrow, the famous Idaho Potato Bowl. Idaho might be their last bowl game because they're moving to the FCS level in 2018. They play Colorado State.
Give me Idaho in the Idaho Potato Bowl.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense.
I'm also going to take Idaho. They play in Boise on the blue turf. And then you got the Popeyes Bahamas Bowl down in Bahamas. Old Dominion plays Eastern Michigan. I'm gonna take Old Dominion, roots down in Norfolk there. But last year, Western Michigan played in this bowl game, and they won. And then you saw what they did this year. They're playing in the Cotton Bowl now against Wisconsin. So who knows if the winner of this game between Eastern Michigan coming out of the MAC and then Old Dominion coming out of the Conference USA, if they're able to do the same thing next year.
Yeah, that'd be really interesting. But I'm going to take Old Dominion as well.
All right. And then the Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl, Navy, they're an Armed Forces school. They're playing Louisiana Tech. I got to take Navy. And plus, they lost to Army for the first time in 14 years. You know, they got to have some type of redemption.
Well, I'm going to take La Tech because they lost their last 2 games. Navy did to Temple in the AAC championship game, and then Navy, who hadn't lost to in for pretty much forever, it seemed like. So they're on a really decline at this moment. I don't know if they're going to be able to pick it up for the bowl game.
All right. The Dollar General Bowl down in Mobile, Alabama. Ohio plays Troy.
All right. Give me Ohio.
I'm also going to take Ohio. I would take Troy. I know somebody who goes to Troy, but Ohio, they also lost their conference championship game to Western Michigan in the MAC championship game up there in Detroit a couple weeks ago. So Ohio, I think, will beat Troy. The Hawaii Bowl, Hawaii plays in their own bowl game for the first time in a while. They play Middle Tennessee State, but I don't think it's going to be enough. I think Middle Tennessee State's going to win.
Yeah, give me Middle Tennessee State as well.
All right, St. Petersburg Bowl down in the Trop, down in St. Pete, around Tampa there, where the Tampa Bay Rays play at. You got Miami, Ohio playing Mississippi State.
Mississippi State, because they play in the SEC. They play in a much tougher conference.
Exactly. That's why I'm going to take the Bulldogs as well. The Quick Lane Bowl now up in Detroit. You got Maryland. Both teams are 6-6. You got Maryland and Boston College. Boston College going back to their first bowl game after they played Penn State, the Pinstripe Bowl a couple years ago.
I'll go Boston College in this one, actually.
I'm going to take Maryland. Got to represent for the Big Ten. And like I said to you a couple weeks ago, Corey, I got to take all the Big Ten schools except for one, and I believe we'll be picking that game here shortly. The Camping World Independence Bowl. Both teams are also 6-6. You got NC State against Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt's not very good. I'm going to have to go NC State.
Yeah, I'm also going to take NC State, Corey. Vanderbilt snuck into a bowl game, finished 6-6. It was enough, but they looked horrible all season long. So NC State will take the Wolfpack. The Zaxby's Heart of Dallas Bowl, Army against North Texas. North Texas is pretty much playing in their own backyard, but Army coming off a huge win against Navy. You can't pick against any military schools in bowl games. You got to see these players go out with a bang before they got to do their service. So I got to take Army.
I am going to take Army because they beat Navy.
All right.
They seem to be playing pretty well.
And then speaking of the military, you got the Military Bowl. You got Temple against Wake Forest.
I got to go Temple, coming off a huge win for the AAC championship.
Yeah, Temple, they lost Matt Roll to Baylor, their head coach, former Penn State linebacker. Playing Wake Forest. Wake Forest is under investigation there right now.
Yes.
He's a former assistant now, leaked information to opponents on their game plan on what they're going to do and over the past couple years. So we'll have to see if something happens with that. I assume something will. I think Wake Forest is going to be given some penalties here coming up. Temple, though, beats them. The National Funding Holiday Bowl, Minnesota plays Washington State. Both teams are 8-4. Minnesota actually almost didn't play in this game because of players boycotting the game because 10 players had got suspended for a player having a sexual assault against him back at the beginning of the season. But now, even though with the university behind them, the players decided to play in the game, end the boycott and play in the game. So Minnesota is still going to play Washington State. I got to take Minnesota Big Ten, and they beat the Pac-12.
I got to go Washington State in that one. They had a pretty great season.
They
this
did.
Season. Only losing to some of the best teams in the Pac-12, which is a pretty underrated conference in its own right. So I like Washington State in that one.
All right. And then you got the Motel 6 Cactus Bowl. Baylor plays Boise State.
I gotta go Boise State. Baylor looked really bad at the tail end of the season.
Yeah, they started out 6-0, and then they lost their last 6 games to finish 6-6. That's pretty bad. They were under interim head coach Jim Gerby. Got new head coach Matt Rule coming in now. He will not be coaching the bowl game. Obviously, he was not on the staff this year. Look for bright things though for Baylor here in the future, as what they were in the past couple of seasons. And then you got the New Era Pinstripe Bowl, a bowl game I went to a couple years ago when Penn State played Boston College. Game went to overtime. Penn State won by 1 because Boston College missed a extra point. This year you got Pitt against Northwestern.
Gotta go Pitt. Pitt is another team that had a pretty good season this season, beating some of the top teams in the country.
They did.
Also losing to a couple of the top teams in the country as well, but still great season by Pitt. I gotta take them over Northwestern.
All right, I would take Pitt, but you know me, Corey, I'm a Penn State fan. I can't pick Pitt any game of the year, no matter who they're playing. But they're also playing a Big Ten school, so I gotta take Northwestern. Northwestern started out a little bit iffy, came on strong there, but then they finished a little slow. I think they get a win and get the momentum to move on to next season to get their 7th victory this year. So eat shit, Pitt. And then Russell Athletic Bowl, you got West Virginia, against Miami, Florida.
West Virginia, another team that has a nice season. But Miami at Florida, they started off pretty well. We're ranked in the top 10, kind of dropped off near the end of the season. They haven't been looking that impressive as they were earlier in the season, so gotta go West Virginia in that one.
I'm also going to take WVU. As you said, Miami started out pretty strong, stumbled there throughout the middle of the season, and then they finished somewhat strong under first-year head coach Mark Richt. Now, Mark Richt, he will get the U back here in a couple years, but I got to take WVU. The Foster Farms Bowl now. This is the game I'm going to pick against the Big Ten. You got Indiana playing Utah.
I got to go Utah now.
So I'm also going to take the Utes. And then next Wednesday night, bowl game you really like, I know, Advocare Texas Bowl, Texas A&M and Kansas State matchup of two former Big 12 schools.
I like Kansas State. They had a pretty solid season this season.
Surprisingly, under the radar.
Under the radar, because, they're 4 losses to teams above them in the Pac-12, 3 of them, then a loss to Stanford on opening weekend.
Yes.
So they don't have really a bad loss on the entire year. But they don't have a really good win either. But I do like them over A&M in that game.
I'm also going to take good old AARP and Bill Snyder. Who knows how much longer he's going to be coaching. He's getting up there in age. And speaking of age, I want to wish a happy birthday to the late great Joe Paterno. He turned 90 today. If he was still alive, we are Penn State. But take AARP, and then as I said to Corey, bowl game tonight, BYU Wyoming point settable. Be sure to go vote on it here on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We both have BYU in that game. Move on to the NFL now.
Yeah, move on to the NFL now. I know you had something about the Pro Bowl. That was just announced.
Yeah, the Pro Bowl rosters were announced last night. A couple players from the Raiders, 7 of them made the roster. Game's also going to return to the AFC NFC format. Hasn't been like that in a couple years. Should be fun to watch again. And then the game's going to be in Orlando. It's not played in Honolulu, Hawaii, hardly anymore. Because after they went to Miami the 1 year, they go back. But it's in Orlando, Florida this year. A couple players from those Raiders include Donald Penn, the tackle, Amari Cooper, the wide receiver, Kalichi Osemele, the guard, and then Derek Carr, the quarterback. So, 3 of those 7, 2 of them are on their offensive line, and that's why I think the Oakland Raiders are where they're at right now. They're 11-3, in the number 2 seed now since Kansas City lost last weekend to Tennessee. And that's why they're able to run the ball. Derek Carr is able to, get it to Cooper, get it to Michael Crabtree, and as I said, that's why they're at where they're at, and they're going back to the playoffs now for the first time since 2002. The last time they were in the playoffs was when they won the Super Bowl. And now I'm not saying they're going to go to the Super Bowl, but who knows about that. Some other players: Antonio Brown from Pittsburgh, AJ Green from the Bengals. We'll have to see if he's going to actually play in the game. Though he's injured right now. And then you got T.Y. Hilton at the other wide receiver. Quarterbacks, as I said, Derek Carr, Tom Brady, and Ben Roethlisberger. Tackle Joe Thomas, 10th straight Pro Bowl selection. He's the fifth player in NFL history to be selected to the Pro Bowl 10 straight years to start off his career. Running backs, Le'Veon Bell, DeMarco Murray, and LaShawn McCoy from Pittsburgh, Tennessee, and Buffalo. And then Travis Kelce and Delaney Walker from the Chiefs and the Titans. As I said, they played each other last week on the AFC offense. Then the AFC defense got Khalil Mack. The reason why Oakland's where they're at as well. They're playing great defense. Cameron Wake, Penn State, who played under the name Derek Wake when he was up here in Happy Valley. And then Jadeveon Clowney makes the first Pro Bowl for the Houston Texans after being injured in the first 2 seasons of his career. And then the interior linemen on the defensive line, you got Ndamukong Suh and Geno Atkins. Cameron Wake and Ndamukong Suh absolutely destroyed Bryce Petty last week. Did you see that, Corey? Last Saturday? No, you didn't watch that game. But then, let's see who else here. Defense, Vaughn Miller, Aqib Talib, Marcus Peters, Eric Berry, coming back from leukemia. Special teams, Justin Tucker, probably the best, what do you want to call it? Deep ball kicker in the NFL. He's made, I don't know how many, over 50 yards this season. It's absolutely ridiculous. Pat McAfee, the punter for the Colts, he makes another Pro Bowl. And then let's move the NFC now. Quarterbacks, you got Matt Ryan, Aaron Rodgers, and Dak Prescott. Running backs, Ezekiel Elliott. Go donate to the Salvation Army as well if you haven't already. And then Dak and Zeke are also the first duo, quarterback and running back duo in NFL history to make the Pro Bowls as rookies. Zach Martin, also from those Dallas Cowboys, will be starting. Tyron Smith, also from the Dallas Cowboys, will be starting at tackle. Let's see, Odell Beckham Jr., Larry Fitzgerald, Julio Jones, and Mike Evans as your starting wide receivers. David Johnson and Devontae Freeman join Ezekiel Elliott. And then Greg Olsen and Jordan Reed are your starting tight ends. Defense, though, for the NFC, not really anybody to go over other than Luke Kuechly. He's hurt right now. You also have a couple of Seattle Seahawks, Michael Bennett and Cliff Averill. I believe Earl Thomas would be on this roster if he got hurt. Now he's contemplating retirement. But we'll leave it at that. Move on to picks for this week. But as I said, the Pro Bowl's on January 29th in Orlando, Florida. Goes back to the AFC NFC format. Just want to go over some of the key players on the roster that were announced last night.
Hi, before we pick any games, of course, we got to do our little review for the week.
Oh, yeah.
Little review, a little bit of questions maybe, trying to, I don't know, kind of analyze some more stuff.
Yeah.
Kind of getting a little deeper in some things. But, as we typically do, upset this week, I didn't really have anything that I would consider an upset this week. There were some games that were kind of maybe very, very borderline, yeah. But nothing I would consider a true upset.
Yeah, I had Titans over Chiefs and Giants over Lions, but I picked both those games, so you really can't say that's an upset. We've been saying that all year.
Well, it's not really in either, because the Giants had a better record than the Lions, or they had the same record than the Lions. So it's not even an upset anyway, and plus the Giants have been playing better anyway. Titans, they've been playing great anyway, but it's an upset. That's the closest thing, because it was an Arrowhead. Yeah. That's the biggest thing that makes it kind of an upset.
But I picked Tennessee, so like I said, I can't,
Yeah, you can't.
But other than that, I agree with you. It really wasn't.
No, there's a lot of close games, yes. No upsets. Which, I mean, that's another thing. Like, if it's a blowout, like, say if Tennessee blew out Kansas City, I would definitely put that as an upset. Mm-hmm. But no, it was a 2-point game, so not really. So moving on, best game I had the Titans and the Chiefs.
I had Eagles Ravens because the game could have went to overtime. Doug Peterson decided to go for 2, and they ended up losing by 26.
But similarly, the Titans and Chiefs was kind of similar to that in the fact that a 2-point conversion by the Tennessee, even though they just needed an extra point to tie it, they still went for it. They still had about 4 minutes left. They missed that 2-point conversion, ended up somehow getting the game-winning field goal thanks to Andy Reid icing Ryan Suckup up because he missed it, but he got iced, ended up making it after the timeout. So Andy Reid kind of screwed himself, and that was kind of a fun image to see him kind of like shaking his head after.
The ball went about another 10 yards further than what it did the first time he kicked it.
Yeah.
So kickers, if you get iced, they're going to, try to kick it as hard as they can, the next time. And he said that's the hardest he's ever kicked the ball. And especially in the cold, it was 1 degrees when the game started. And then plus it was windy as well. You got to factor all that into it. But as you said, Andy Reid called that timeout and, pretty much screwed himself.
Yeah.
And could be screwing the Chiefs of a first-round bye in the playoffs.
Well,
we'll see
a couple games left.
Let's see how these last 2 games play out.
I know I have the Chiefs winning the West still.
I had them. I had both. Well, the Patriots, they won their 8th straight.
Yes.
AFC East, breaking an NFL record set by the LA Rams of the 1970s, and then now you got Oakland, as I said, as that 2 seed because they beat San Diego to make the playoffs for the first time since 2002, and then with Kansas City losing, Oakland's in that 2 seed. So.
Well, the way I see it working out is that I think the Chiefs are going to win out, but the Raiders are going to lose one of their last 2 games. They'll be tied. Kansas City gets the tiebreaker.
Yeah, tiebreaker because they beat them head to head both times this year.
So that's where I'm coming
from.
On that. Impressed this week, I had the Giants. They're 10-4, and they still have a shot at the division. A very very slim shot. Of course,
they do.
They need the Cowboys to lose out, and they need to win out themselves.
And then they have the head to head.
Yeah, and then they have the head to head. But they have a very underrated defense, I think, especially in the last 2 weeks. We've seen it.
The Giants?
The Giants, yes. Because they shut down Dak and Zeke pretty well on it was Sunday night. Sunday night 2 weeks ago. And then this past week only held the Lions to, I think, single digits or something like that. Or very, very low score.
Yeah, 17 to 9.
Yeah, So they held them to only 9. They were a pretty high-powered offense going in themselves. They're 3rd in the league in points per game, their defense. They're 5th in rushing yards. They're 5th in rushing. 31 sacks, 21 turnovers. That's a large help to their offense, which is pretty average or even below average. They don't really have a wideout core. Eli Manning's not that great of a quarterback, in my opinion. I don't know why people think he is.
Well, because he's Peyton's brother.
That and he has rings, but he has rings for 2 throws. But nevertheless.
Yeah, David Tyree and
Manningham.
Yeah, Mario Manningham against the Patriots again.
So, their offense isn't that great. They haven't had a run game in a while.
No.
Their run game is non-existent.
And that might be why they lose in the playoffs. Because they're not going to be able to run football. Because you look at the other teams in the NFC, the Cowboys, Ezekiel Elliott. Yeah, I know the Giants beat the Cowboys twice this year. They stopped them.
Well, they didn't shut them down on Sunday. The last time they played on Sunday night, they didn't really shut him down. He still had a 100-yard game, but they shut down Dak, which is enough.
You got Atlanta and Devontae Freeman, who made the Pro Bowl.
It's really Freeman and Coleman. They're 2-headed.
Coleman's Coleman's playing better than what he did last year, which I'm very happy about. A little mad though because I had him in fantasy football last year and he didn't do that good. But you also have Seattle. They have a slew of running backs.
I wouldn't call that. I wouldn't say they have a great running game. They have a decent running game.
Yeah, but with the number of running backs that they have, they can balance it out. And I know their offense.
The Giants do too.
Their offense seems to get better because they really didn't look that good against the Rams last week at home. I feel bad for John Ryan too. He absolutely got demolished. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah.
On the fake punt. That was funny. I'm not gonna lie. And then he fumbled in the process as well. He fumbled first, and then he got drilled. What other teams in the NFC in the playoffs? More than likely, the Packers. Eddie Lacy's been hurt all year. They
haven't had a run game.
But they have
season
they
too much.
really haven't had a run game. Yeah, I agree with that. But they have Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
He's still going to be in that MVP conversation. Whether or not people like it or not, and whether the Packers are 16-0 or 8-6 at the moment. I still think they'll win the NFC North. I said that when they were 4-6, and now they're on a 4-game win streak. Who else is there? Is that it? Atlanta, Seattle.
The Lions and the Buccaneers don't really have too much run game.
Doug Martin's been stepping it up. Now, Detroit's running back, Theo Riddick, he's been hurt the past couple weeks. And other than that, Amir Abdullah, he's been hurt all year. Mm-hmm. So, other than that, they really don't have anybody.
Other than that, it's just the Redskins. And Robert Kelly's been playing well.
Yeah,
though.
he has. And speaking of Redskins, we'll get back on track here. They disappointed for me this week. But you were talking about impressed. I had the Panthers, and I was going to say on the flip side, the Redskins disappointed for me. They could have easily won that game. Their defense was... don't even get me started talking about their defense. It was awful. They only lost by 11, but they had their chances to win that game. They didn't. And then the Broncos also disappointed. They only put up 3 points against the Patriots at home. I can understand if they were playing in New England and Foxborough, but they put up 3 points, and it was in the first half. And they didn't do anything in the second half to potentially get back into that game. So the Broncos also disappointed for me.
For disappointed, I have two teams that won, but the way they won, I was kind of disappointed in. The Packers only defeating the Bears by 3 points. Basically,
on a game-winning field goal.
Yeah, basically because of almost a Hail Mary, essentially, to Jordy Nelson, 60-yard pass, just to set that up. And then the Texans having to come back against the 2-12 Jaguars. Or 2-11 then, but now are 2-12.
And now fired Gus Bradley, who had to...
with a backup quarterback, Tom Savage.
Yeah, they benched Brock Osweiler. Now, I don't think Brock Osweiler is going to be in Houston next year. They're going to find somebody who's going to take on his $72 million contract. He's making $12 million a year. So I don't think Brocky's going to be in Houston next year. And Jaguars fired Gus Bradley, as I said. He actually had to fly back to Jacksonville on the team plane. He got fired in Houston, then he'd fly back home, which that's a little weird. You think?
A little bit.
I mean, it's not as bad as getting fired on the tarmac and at LAX like Lane Kiffin did, new head coach at Florida Atlantic now. But you get fired and then you got to fly back with the team that you just coached. That you're up 20-8, and then you lose 24-20.
21-20.
21-20. So, after being up, they had said he was going to be fired whether or not they won or lost that game. So, who knows about that? But, Jaguars, and the Texans, as you said.
And our disappointments kind of lead me into some questions that I have for this week. This one did concern Brock Osweiler. You kind of answered it already almost. But since benching him and now putting in Tom Savage as a starting quarterback, that must mean a lack of confidence in Osweiler now. They're kind of,
for sure. I don't think...
they're kind of regretting their decision.
Oh, well, the thing is, Bill O'Brien, the head coach, former head coach up here at Penn State, he never met with Brock Osweiler before they signed him in free agency.
Yeah.
He was actually at Wisconsin's Pro Day with J.J. Watt, watching his younger brother, T.J. Watt, even though he still had another year left. He was working out. So who knows if T.J. is going to be playing on the Houston Texans next year alongside his brother. That's a good, strong possibility, if you ask me, with the connection. But I don't think there's been any confidence in Brock all year. I know the Texans, they're what? 8-6 right now. They're leading the South. He has made some good throws. He has been good at times, but he's been worse at times more than he's been good at times throughout the season. Now they have a strong running game with Lamar Miller. Their offensive line's decent. It could be better. Look for the Texans to take an offensive lineman, maybe 2 or 3 in the draft this year coming up. Because then they got their weapons. They got DeAndre Hopkins, they got Will Fuller, and they got Jalen Strong. Tight end, Fedorowicz, they could have a better tight end if you ask me. Maybe Rob Gronkowski, if who knows if his time in New England is numbered with his injuries. Houston will take a chance on him. Another connection. O'Brien coached in New England with Gronkowski O'Brien was his tight end coach and offensive coordinator. But going back to Brock, I don't think they've had any confidence with him all year, and I don't think O'Brien likes him, and that's why I think they're going to take whether Bob McNair likes it or not, the owner of the Houston Texans. Brock Osweiler's not going to be in Houston at the start of next season.
All right. This next question concerns the team that you had and disappointed, one of them at least, the Denver Broncos. Yeah. You mentioned putting up 3 points. We asked last week, or I brought up the question last week, their playoff chances, if they were in danger. Now it really looks like it right now because they're out now.
Yeah.
The Dolphins are in that 6th spot because they won this week, crushing the Jets on Saturday night. So the question is then, what is Denver's biggest problem then?
Their run game.
The running game?
Anderson got hurt. They went in a slump there when he got hurt. Yeah, they won some games, but the games that they lost, they were good teams. Yeah, I understand that, but you got to be able to run the football, and it opens up to win football games because it opens up play action. Yeah, I know you got a second-year quarterback in Trevor Siemian, out of Northwestern. He's not Peyton Manning.
He's essentially a rookie since it is his first actual season play.
Yes.
So.
But then also, I think one of their biggest thing they're missing right now is on their defense side of the ball. Aqib Talib, I know he got announced on the Pro Bowl to go to the Pro Bowl. He hasn't been playing so good this year as what he has in the past. Their secondary, I think, has taken a big hit. Now, who knows if it's because of his injury he had. He shot himself in the leg over the off season last year. Who knows if that's playing a factor in it. But I think because they're not able to run the football is why they're 8-6 right now on the outside looking in. And as I said last week, I don't think they're going to make playoffs.
I do agree with you that the run game is a big problem, especially since C.J. Anderson went down. They were running it pretty effectively while he was still around.
Let me throw this in here. The run game hurts any team that cannot run the football, no matter if it's at the high school level, the college level, or the NFL. If you cannot run the football, you're not going to win football games.
All right. It's a fundamental piece of the offense, so of course you need to. But it's the offensive line. In general, it's the offensive line that's the problem for the Broncos because, especially if you watch the game against the Patriots here on Sunday, they had a hard time protecting Siemian as well. Mm-hmm. Not just running the football, they had a problem with that too, but protecting Trevor Siemian, not allowing him to have any time to be able to make throws. Yeah. Even though he's not the most experienced quarterback in the world, he still needs to give him time to be able to make these throws to the talented wide receiver core with Emmanuel Sanders and Demaryius Thomas and a couple of other more unknown guys, but still able to make plays. But you got to have a good offensive line, no doubt. It's where it all starts in the offense. It's the offensive line. If you don't have one of those, you can't do anything.
It starts up front on both sides of the ball, on both offense and defense. Your line's got to be strong. Look at the Dallas Cowboys, for God's sakes. 5 years ago, their offensive line was not as good as what it was 3 years ago when DeMarco Murray had his standout year that led him to signing to go to Philadelphia in free agency for all the money. Now he's in Tennessee, but and they got their offensive line stronger through the draft. Travis Frederick going back to the Pro Bowl, Zach Martin going back to the Pro Bowl, Tyron Smith going back to the Pro Bowl, all on that left side of the offensive line. You also have Doug Free, a good veteran in the league. And then Ezekiel Elliott, just what he's able to do, I agree. And I've said it before. It all starts up front, but I thought the biggest thing with the Broncos was because they don't have anybody to run the ball, really.
They don't have an offense in general.
And people are going to say, well, it's because, and I agree with it, it's because, they want, if you look at teams in the past, if they go to the Super Bowl, they really don't make the playoffs. They struggle, and as you said, because they lose people to free agency.
Yeah.
and Denver's defensive line. They lost Malik Jackson to Jacksonville. They lost somebody else to free agency. They did sign Von Miller to a long extension. Now, he's still playing good. He's going back to the Pro Bowl, but I thought Denver just really couldn't. I think the biggest thing they're missing right now is the run game, and pretty much Peyton Manning as well. Because with what Peyton's able to do, that was cool to see him go out on top, playing 18 seasons since he wore number 18. But Peyton, Denver's gonna get back on track. Simeon might be the answer. They also have Paxton Lynch, but who knows if they're going to move on from both of those. John Elway knows what he's doing, though, so just give him time.
Yeah, and of course, Kubiak's a quarterback guru himself.
Yeah.
So,
Kubiak backed up Elway in Denver, and then Kubiak had David Carr there for a while in Houston, and then he also had Matt Schaub.
Yeah.
Two good quarterbacks. David's the older brother, Derek. Didn't turn out as good, but...
But in regards to the Peyton Manning, the missing Peyton Manning, if you're using last season as a measuring stick, that's not really a good argument, I don't think, because he was very average last season. He wasn't the reason they won last season, though.
Because he was hurt.
Well, not just because he was hurt. He wasn't playing that well to begin with, even if he wasn't hurt. He wasn't playing good the entire year. He just basically he was carried by the defense, something that he didn't really have ever in his career until that season. And in Indianapolis, he had no defense to speak of for the most part. But come to Denver, he gets a little more defense and gets the Super Bowl championship on the way out, which is great, yes. And then, of course, they lose guys on the defensive end. But they had younger guys filling some of the gaps. Shane Ray's playing pretty well.
Yeah.
And some other guys. But it's definitely the offensive side of the ball for the Broncos, no doubt about it. Because they can't put up points.
And you got to put up points.
Your defense can be as good as you want, but unless you're winning 3-0 games.
Defense wins championships, but offense sells tickets.
Offense wins games.
Offense does wins games too. So
unless you're winning 3-0 every week, you're not going to be able to win any games.
Well, if you win 3-0, if you've put up 3 points week in and week out, you're more than likely going to be 0-14 like the Cleveland Browns are.
Exactly. So, I mean, the offense is just as important. Sure, the defense can make the bigger plays, stopping the other team, of course, but you got to do your part as well on the offensive end. Mm-hmm. So, we'll move on now.
Do you have any more questions for me?
I do have one more question. It's in regard, actually, two more questions.
All right.
One's in regard to the playoff. Both are, I guess you could say, how much trouble are the Lions in after losing to the Giants here this past week? Because a win would have put them right there, possibly winning the NFC North here.
Yeah,
but now they can't clinch until week 17 at the latest.
Yeah, well, I had said the Packers would win the North. Now, I didn't say the Lions would make a wild card, but looking now, who knows if they're going to even make the playoffs?
Exactly.
Because if they lose out, they're more than likely not, because then they'll lose to the Packers in week 17 and they lose to Dallas on Monday night. Don't want to give any spoilers for that game, but I don't think Detroit's going to make the playoffs right now.
It doesn't look like it.
Now, if they still lose out and other teams lose, that they need to lose, there's still a chance that they get in at 9-7 then, as a 5 or 6 seed. Yeah. But right now, I don't think Detroit's getting in. Because I said when Green Bay was 4-6, I said they would win the North. And they've won 4 straight or 8-6 right now. They just got to win out.
I think in my projections, I have the Buccaneers and the Lions at the same record. I don't know who has the tiebreaker in that situation, though. So one of those teams, between those teams, I think the Redskins kind of screwed themselves with the loss this week to the Panthers.
Yeah.
I think they're in really big trouble because they get to play.
Well, and they also have that tie to Cincinnati. I know it's
against
I know it's against an AFC team, but it's still a tie.
Either helps or hurts.
Exactly.
Sometimes it can help you because you don't have that one extra loss, but at the same time you don't have that one extra win as well that you could have. But nevertheless, the Lions, they're in big trouble because now they've had one of the toughest schedules here last couple weeks now because they had to play the Giants this past week. They get the Cowboys now Monday night. Then they have to play the Packers, who seem to have their number every single time they play. at least in recent history, and for the most part, I would think as well. But they're gonna have a hard time doing it. It's gonna pretty much, I think, kind of come down to how well the Bucks play the last couple of games. And the Bucks have a much easier schedule than the Lions because they can play the Saints and the Panthers. Both are at 6-8 in the last two seasons, or last season,
last 2 games,
last 2 weeks of the season. So the Buccaneers look like a forerunner for that 6th seed because the Giants pretty much have the 5 wrapped up at this point. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's, well, I guess they're like 2 games up on the Packers, who are in the wild card now.
Yeah.
But of course, they're likely to probably move up to 3 or 4 with the win in the NFC North. I'm projecting probably the 4 seed, possibly. Depends. I have them tied with the Falcons. I don't know who wins the tiebreaker in that situation.
It'd be the Falcons because they beat them head-to-head.
They did. They did?
Yeah. It was right before, right before Halloween.
Oh, they did. So I forgot about that. So yeah, they would be the 4 seed in my projections. I have Seattle at the 2 because they're going to run because they have the easiest schedule.
Well,
they have to play the Cardinals and then the Niners in the last week of the season. The Cardinals at home, which is always good for them. Now
they did tie again, as well, I should say, earlier in the year on a Sunday night game. The Seattle Seahawks are the only team coming out of the West.
Of course.
Dallas is presumably going to be the one. We talked about that last week. It was our question
of the week. They have the one. If they win this week, they are the one.
Yeah. And then they'll get a first-round bye as well.
Well, they already have a first-round bye, basically, unless they lose out. And the Giants win out. That's the only situation.
So, I'd say it's going to be Dallas, Seattle, Atlanta, Green Bay, and then the Giants are going to be the 5, and then I would go with Detroit, but I think they're going to lose out, and I don't think one of the teams that they're going to need to lose are going to lose. It's either going to be Tampa or Washington.
Yeah, because the Vikings are basically out of it.
So the East could get 3 teams in.
Possibly.
At the least 2.
Yes.
At the least 2.
Because, well, the Cowboys are already in. The Giants are basically in. They're already 2 games up on 6.
Now, if the Giants lose out, and then the Redskins went out, and the Buccaneers went out, there's a lot of what ifs. But the NFC, I don't think any team with 9-7 is going to make the playoffs. So Detroit's out.
9-7 is going to be the final playoff spot. 9-7 will be the final playoff spot record, in my opinion. 9-7 will be the 6th.
Well, Tampa's 8-6 right now, right?
Yeah, I have losing and winning one.
Okay, okay. So I don't think any team 9-7 is going to make the playoffs.
I think they will. 9-7 is a good record. I mean,
it is.
It will.
It is.
It should be.
Sometimes it's good enough to win your division, for God's sakes, to be the 3 or 4 seed and host a home playoff game in the wild card.
Yeah.
But at 9-7, you're gonna have to go on the road this year.
Yeah, a lot of good teams in the NFL this season. The last question I have, also concerning playoffs, and I don't know. Yeah, I'll just go with it now. I was going to say maybe go to the AFC first, but nevertheless, what are some teams that you think could be dark horses to kind of make the playoffs kind of unexpectedly here? Some teams that are kind of in the back, might sneak up, make it into the playoffs.
For the NFC right now?
Any teams.
Minnesota. Because who knows if both Green Bay. I mean, I know Green Bay and Detroit have to play each other once, but what if they lose both this week, and then I know one's going to win the following week, but what if Minnesota wins out? They're 9-7. There's a strong possibility they get in at 9-7. Indianapolis, Buffalo, New Orleans. There's a strong case too that they finish 8-8. They have to have a lot happen. That they could get in.
They're mathematically in it, but they're not. I have the Panthers are also mathematically in it, but those 2 teams I have out. The Colts
because they won last week.
The Colts I have out already, I think I have the Vikings out as well.
Tennessee as well.
Well, Tennessee, I have Tennessee winning the South actually.
Really?
Because I think
they play Houston the last week.
Yeah, because I think they're going to win out, beat Houston in Week 17. Because they're at home, first of all. They get to play the Jaguars this week, which is good. And then they get to play the Texans at home, which is always better than playing on the road in that type of game. And then, furthermore, I think the Texans they might lose out. They might win one and then lose Week 17. I don't know. But either way, it's going to be Week 17 for the South anyway, no matter what happens this week, I'm pretty sure.
It's going to be Week 17 for the AFC South, the NFC North, and maybe the NFC East. You know, if Dallas loses out.
Well, in the AFC North possibly as well if the Ravens win this week.
Well, they play the Steelers. Well, whoever wins the game Sunday, it will win the North. It's going to go. Whoever wins it,
Well,
it's not going to come down to Sunday. Week 17.
Hold on now, because the Bengals could beat the Ravens in the final week of the season, and the Steelers can beat the Browns, obviously, and then they would have the game up.
Pittsburgh would, yeah.
Yeah, they'd be what, 9-7, or no, 10-6, and they would, and the Ravens would be 9-7.
Yeah, and then Pittsburgh would make the playoffs. So you're saying Baltimore beats Pittsburgh then this weekend, if that has to happen, right?
Well, I'm saying, like, if Baltimore beats Pittsburgh this weekend, then
it's
not over.
Okay, that's why I asked you.
Like, no matter who wins this week, it's over. Like, if the Steelers win this week, it's over.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If Pittsburgh wins this week, they're the AFC North champs.
But that can come down until the final week of the season as well.
There's a possibility, if Baltimore wins.
Also, the West, even though they don't play each other.
Well, the AFC West, not the NFC. Seattle's on the West.
Well, I was just saying West because we're still in the AFC. We're just talking about the AFC, so. I guess the NFC South, technically, if the Falcons lose and the Bucks win this week, they would be tied, I think, wouldn't they? If I'm not mistaken. Falcons are already game up, record-wise. They do have the advantage, though, the tiebreaker.
Yeah.
The Bucks have to win out, the Falcons have to lose out, but they play the same opponents in back-to-back weeks.
Yeah.
The Panthers and the Saints, just on different weeks.
Yeah.
So they have the same two opponents.
And as I said last week, the NFL did this on purpose, scheduling division games the last 3 weeks of the year. And it makes that. Well, not the past 2 years. It hasn't been every single week. Teams play the other teams in their division earlier on, middle of the year, but it seems like every single division in football, they're playing each other the last weekend of the year. I know Week 17, it's always like that.
Yeah.
But Week 15 and 16, it has been like that in a couple years. And it makes it more interesting. It makes the games more fun to watch because, CBS or Fox is always flipping to the other games if this game's out of reach or if somebody's going to clinch or, you know what I'm saying. So, it makes it fun to watch. It's going to be a fun last 2 weeks of the year.
I don't want to skip over the AFC. We already did the NFC, kind of our own projections almost. Yeah. So let's do the AFC. The Patriots are
the 1 seed.
Probably going to be the 1 seed.
Yeah.
If they win this week, I'm pretty sure they are the 1 seed no matter what. If I'm not,
they're in the playoffs though for sure.
They are in the playoffs. The Raiders are also in the playoffs. They're at 2 right now. I have them dropping all the way to 5, though. I think the Chiefs win the AFC West. Because they'll have the same record, and the Chiefs have the head-to-head. That's how I think that'll play out.
I think the Raiders are going to win the West now with Kansas City losing last week.
But I have the Raiders losing and winning one. The final 2 weeks, I have the Chiefs winning out, so they'd have the same record. Chiefs win the head-to-head or the tiebreaker, so I have that going down. I have the Steelers winning the North, but I have the Ravens making the playoffs at the 6, actually sneaking in. Because I think the Texans lose out, drop out of the playoffs, Titans win the South, and then the Dolphins do the same thing. They lose out because they play the Bills this week, and then they Patriots in the final week of the season, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they do, down in Miami.
So they might lose both those games. It's going to come down to whether...
So you have Tennessee and Baltimore as wild cards.
No, Tennessee's 4.
You have Houston and Baltimore as wild cards.
Oakland and Baltimore.
Oh yeah, it's because you have Kansas City on the West. Okay.
So
you have Houston and Miami out.
Yes.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
Miami could make it. It depends on what the Patriots will do in the final week of the season. If they're the 1 seed already, they might rest guys.
They
that
might.
could be a possibility, but
teams do it all the time.
But I think the Ravens might sneak in. They have the head-to-head to the Dolphins, which is another thing. So they would get in over them anyway, because they beat them head-to-head earlier this season. So even if they have the same record, which I think they might, Baltimore gets the edge, because I think Baltimore's going to beat the Bengals in the final week of the season. Actually, well, I don't know. They might lose to them. I think they're winning one and losing one in the final 2 weeks of the season. I won't say which ones, but so yeah, mine are Patriots are 1, Chiefs at 2.
I have Raiders at 2.
3 is the
It'd be the North.
Yeah, the North, because the Steelers aren't going to lose to the Browns. So yeah, and then the South at 4, the Titans at 10 and 6. The Steelers might be at 10 and 6, but if the Steelers are at 9 and 7, say, then they're the 4, and then Raiders, Baltimore.
New England, Oakland, Pittsburgh, Houston, Kansas City, Tennessee.
All right. So
I think Miami's. I don't think Miami's going to get in.
Very similar.
Yeah.
Both have similar teams out. Keeping Houston in there, though.
Yeah, I think Houston's going to make playoffs. Now, there's a strong possibility that they bring Brock back into play because they're in the playoffs. He has playoff experience over Tom Savage. It's going to be a big question, I think, surrounding Houston and Bill O'Brien. But as I said earlier, I don't think Brock's going to be there next year. And I think if Houston does make the playoffs and they do start him, he's going to lose them the game, whoever they play, in the wild card. And it's going to lead to him getting out, and then Houston's going to have to start over with a new quarterback.
All right. That's where you stand on it.
Yeah.
Let's get into the games for this week here, week 16, because, I mean, a lot of these games we're about to pick have the implications for the playoffs that we're talking about right now. So maybe we kind of went out of order, maybe a little bit. Possibly.
Who cares?
But who cares? Because, I mean, you probably already know some of the teams just based on what we've been saying, like who we think is going to win these games. But nevertheless, Thursday Night Football, Giants-Eagles, NFC East divisional matchup. I think the Giants win this one. They've been playing great the last couple of weeks and down the stretch here. I think they stay in contention for the NFC East, but we'll see what happens on Monday night. But as of Thursday night, I think they'll win, stay in contention for that NFC East, clinch the wild card.
One of the wild card spots.
More than likely the 5. On Thursday night against the Eagles.
I'm also going to take the Giants. We talked about their defense a little bit ago. You said they weren't as... You didn't think they were as good as what they could be, throughout the season so far. But I think their defense makes plays, stops rookie Carson Wentz, and Philly's already eliminated, so they could ruin the Giants' season. Because then the Giants could lose in Week 17 and possibly get the 6th seed, or even be out on the outside looking in, depending on if the other teams in contention for the playoffs win out and somebody else loses. There's a lot of what ifs, as I said, but I'm going to take Giants over the Eagles.
All right. Next game is another Yeah, they're all Saturday because
they're all Saturday except for 2, and then you got the Monday game.
Of course, so these are all Saturday. This is basically your Sundays, though. Dolphins, Bills. I'm going to go Bills, I think. Yeah, Matt Moore played great against the Jets, but it's the Jets. I think the Bills are a little bit more primed to maybe make the playoffs, even if they win out, which I think is very possible.
Yeah, Buffalo's another team that can make the playoffs.
They play the Dolphins with a backup quarterback.
They have to have a lot of what ifs to happen, too.
They play a Dolphins team.
They're 7-7 right now.
Play a Dolphins team with a backup quarterback, then play the Jets, who are terrible. They can easily win out, possibly be in that conversation. They have the best chance of all. Well, there's only 2 teams at 500, them and the Colts, but they have the better chance of them. But I think the Bills win this one. They played pretty good last week. McCoy had a really big day, which is a big reason for their successes this season if he plays well. So I think he has a pretty good game.
I think Buffalo wins as well. They win this week, but then they lose the following week and finish 8-8 for the second straight year. And then Miami loses to New England in Week 17 and doesn't make the playoffs.
All right.
So Buffalo or Miami this week?
Vikings, Packers. This one's in Lambeau. The one early in the season, like week 2 or so, was in Minnesota on Monday night. Minnesota got that win. But I gotta go Packers.
It was a game. Adrian Peterson went down with injury.
It was, and now he's back.
He is.
I didn't do too much there last week though against the Colts. They got crushed by the Colts. But gotta go Packers in this one at home. I think the Packers win the North.
Same.
All right.
I said it a couple weeks ago. So yeah. Packers win the North. They got to win.
Falcons, Panthers. I gotta go Falcons in this one. Panthers had a pretty decent week this past week against the Redskins on Monday night, but I think the Falcons go into Carolina, beat the Panthers, and possibly lock up the South this week.
All right, I'm also going to take the Falcons. Now, there's still a strong possibility. Now, it would be even stronger if Tampa would have won last week against Dallas, that Tampa could win the South. There's still a possibility that Tampa could, but if Atlanta wins, which I think they will, they'll win the South. I agree with you.
All right. Colts, Raiders. This is one of those non-divisional games that's pretty good. Yeah. Granted, the Colts are almost entirely out of playoff contention. They're behind all the teams. For the most part that are in contention, they're the lowest of the in the hunt category, if you would. Raiders, I think they're going to win this game against the Colts, but then lose to the Broncos week 17. That's the one loss. I think they tie with the Chiefs, and that's how they lose the AFC West and how the Chiefs win.
So they finished 12-4 then?
Yes.
Both teams finished 12-4?
Yes, they both finished 12-4.
Okay. I'm going to take the Raiders going back to the playoffs now for the first time since 2002 when they won the Super Bowl with Bill Callahan coaching against former coach John Gruden. He's a candidate now for the LA Rams job. I don't think he's going to take it, but I really want to be surprised now if he would, because he's been targeted by a number of teams in the past 5 years. Hell, even since he started working for ESPN in 2009 after he got out of coaching. So be on the lookout for John Gruden, the LA Rams. But speaking of his old team, the Raiders, I think they beat the Colts. The Colts could possibly finish at 7-9. I think they'll finish at 8-8 though.
All right. I'm definitely probably going to finish 8-8. They played Jaguars last week of the season.
Hey, that's why they play the games. You never know.
But
hell, the Browns could beat the Chargers this week, and I think the Browns will beat the Chargers this week. Throwing that in there.
The Saints Buccaneers for the second time in 3 weeks now. Moved to the late part of the day.
4:30.
Yes, 4:30 once again, even though it's in New Orleans. But I picked the Bucs last time. I'm picking the Saints this time at home. Superdome's tough to play in. I think the Buccaneers lose, and the Falcons clinch the division this week thanks to the Buccaneers' loss and they're winning.
Okay. Yeah, that would make sense then. And yay, you actually picked the Saints for once this year. I'm also going to pick the Saints. I've picked them more times than him. Now, it's hurt me some, but I'm still up on him in the standings. Because I went 5-3 last week, and you went 3-5, so I'm 4 games up on you. Or 5 games up on you. So, I'm going to take the Saints.
Just another thing about that, the Buccaneers losing this past week, losing their great winning streak, might start a little bit of a losing streak, possibly.
It could.
Who knows?
It could. It happens like that at any level. You see teams that get on these winning streaks and then they just lose, and they can't seem to get their rhythm back, and then they just keep losing, and then just all of a sudden then they win another one, but then they lose some more, and their season's pretty much over by then. But yeah.
Bengals Texans is your primetime game for Saturday night at 8:25 on the NFL Network, not on primetime TV like NBC or something, because it's not the actual Sunday night game.
Yeah.
That's actual Sunday. It will be
on Christmas.
On Christmas, but
I want to wish everybody Merry Christmas as well.
I had the Texans written down, winning this one, but with Tom Savage making his first career start against the Bengals, I'm gonna have to take the Bengals in this one to wreck the Texans season a little bit, and that's a big reason why I think the Texans don't make the playoffs. The switch to Tom Savage so late in the season might actually really hurt them.
Well, as I said, I have Houston in the playoffs, so I have Houston winning this game as well. We talked about their run game with Lamar Miller. I think he's going to have a career day, or career night. They play Saturday night, as you said, Corey. So Houston beats Cincy, and then Houston Houston beats Tennessee in Week 17, but Tennessee still gets in the playoffs because Miami's going to lose to New England.
Okay, then.
So as I said, if Houston win in the South, and then Tennessee as my 6th seed.
All right. Your first of your Christmas Day games is the Steelers taking on the Ravens in Pittsburgh. I'm, of course, taking the Ravens. I always pick against the Steelers no matter what. And honestly, the Ravens might actually win that game anyway.
It's a strong possibility they do.
They already have the one on the Steelers.
They do, back last month in November. But, you know me, I've never picked against the Steelers. I never will. So Pittsburgh beats Baltimore on Christmas Day, gets me another Christmas gift with a win. And then they secure the AC North. Now, hopefully, the Steelers just don't lose to the Browns in Week 17 then at home, which that's also a strong possibility because that's why they play the games. But I think, as I said, the Browns get their first one this week, and then they lose in Week 17 to start off 2017 because the games would be on January 1st there. So Pittsburgh beats Baltimore, wins the North.
All right, they would win the North with a win there. Broncos Chiefs is your primetime game on NBC, 8:30. Christmas Day in Arrowhead. Got to go with the Chiefs. Arrowhead's really tough. Broncos offense is very stagnant, very poor. I think the Chiefs are going to prey on that and pick up a win in a closely contested game, nonetheless, though.
I think it's going to be close as well. Was when they played in Denver earlier this year. Now, if Denver wins and then Kansas City loses in Week 17 and Miami wins out, both those teams are going to be, 10-6, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
There's a strong possibility Kansas City gets left out of the playoffs. And Miami...
No. If Miami wins out, they're 11-5.
Okay, well, then Kansas City would be 10-6 then. So Miami would be one game up on them, and Miami would be in the playoffs then over Kansas City. Strong possibility Kansas City doesn't make the playoffs, but I think they will.
All right.
I think we both do.
Yeah, we both have the Chiefs in there. Lions Cowboys, your Monday night game, day after Christmas. Got to go with Cowboys at home. They haven't lost at home this season. Actually, no, they have, but
to the Giants
week one. But they've been really good at home this season, I guess. Let's say that instead, because that's correct. But the Lions, I think they're in big trouble. I think they're going to miss out on the playoffs entirely, possibly. They might sneak in at the 6, possibly. That's as low as they'll go, though. Or that's the best they'll do, rather.
Yeah.
Because I think they're going to lose to the Packers Week 17, even though I think it's in Detroit.
It is in Detroit.
It is?
It is. And if you look back at last year's game, Aaron Rodgers threw the Hail Mary to win. First of many Hail Marys. He threw one against Arizona in the playoffs last year. And then, as you said, threw a 60-yard bomb to Jordy Nelson last week in Chicago to set up the game-winning field goal. Now, if he's going to have to do that next week, Green Bay, I think, is going to be in trouble in the playoffs because if they have to rely on Aaron Rodgers, because we talked about their run game as well, it's iffy. But if they have to rely on him in the playoffs, just don't be surprised if they lose in the wild card round, whoever they play. Because, hell, they could get a first-round bye, though, too, if Seattle loses. Because Seattle has that tie, and that would hurt them.
Well, Seattle would have to lose out.
That's what I'm saying. If Seattle loses out, Green Bay wins out. Green Bay's more than likely. Well, Atlanta would be that too then, unless they lose a game. Thinking about it now. But going back to Green Bay, don't be surprised if they lose if they have to rely on Aaron Rodgers. And who knows if they don't even make the playoffs, because there's other teams in the NFC that could dethrone them because they play Detroit. Detroit could win that game. I don't know who I'm going to pick right now for that game next week, because since we're concentrating on this week. But Dallas, Zeke's going to be eating all night, I should say. So Dallas over Detroit.
All right.
Detroit doesn't make the playoffs, I don't think.
All right, so we're pretty much general consensus for these games. Only 2 of them. One naturally because it's Steelers game.
Yep.
And one because we just think different things. The Bengals and the Texans game. So
yeah,
only disagreement on 2 games.
Yeah. Surprisingly, we normally disagree on a couple more than that.
Usually, yeah. But if you don't have anything else,
just want to wish everybody Merry Christmas.
all right. And for Luke saying Merry Christmas, it's time for us to wrap it up for this edition of Across the Goal Line. You subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram at ATGL16. All the links are floating around on all the social media platforms here, YouTube, Instagram, all the places I just mentioned.
Facebook.
You can follow Luke on Twitter at Luke96 and me at SameMains14 on Twitter as well. Don't forget to buy our merch.
Yeah, we have merch.
You can contact us about
Where's your hat at?
using
Grab your hat.
Yeah. You can contact us using all the social media platforms or emailing us at acrossthegoalline2016 at gmail.com. And for Luke Armstrong and Corey Mains, and we'll see you on the next edition of Across the Goal Line, live from the field.
Yeah. See you later. Have a Merry Christmas. We'll be back next week.